I don't know, and away we go. All right, just before I start the episode, just two things that just came to my mind for some reason. I've been thinking a while that in life, you're going to come across people that are going to be difficult, and they probably don't know what they're doing or what they're saying. And no matter how foolish or infuriating their mistakes are, we can't let these moments get the best of you. It could be worse. The point I'm making is, in just that brief few seconds, no matter what happens, be grateful for what you have right now. Because not many people in this world have what you have. And even if whatever you have right now or what you're doing at the moment feels mundane and doesn't fulfill much excitement in your life, however, to some people, whatever you're doing is something they wish to do. So whatever, it's like the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Likewise, whatever you're doing, which may feel mundane, could be seen as, to some people, an aspect that these people wish to fulfill and want to do in their life because they don't have the resources, they don't have the materials, nor they have the access to such institutions or services or even the goods that you buy from grocery stores. So yes, there's going to be problems, not just in the way we live, but also you're going to come across people that really gets under your skin and on your nerves. Be glad and be grateful for what you have right now. It could be worse. Oh yes. So you could be in a restaurant, being asked to leave without one of the staff members ever giving a reason for why you've been asked to leave. You just have to leave, says the staff member, and not get any reason whatsoever. You could be locked behind bars for a crime you didn't even do, nor even remember even happening to begin with. You just found that out the moment the police officer said that you're under arrest for doing this and doing that. Or even if you're a dog owner or an owner of a pet, you take them on a walk somewhere, and then another person is walking their pets, and they start attacking your pets, and things get very vicious, and you're trying the best you can to break it up. However, the aftermath from it is an expensive trip to the vet, a series of medication, and no matter how bad things get, which will happen eventually, it could be worse. And no matter how bad things get, it will get better. Oh yes, absolutely. And also, something I've just seen just before I started recording, I was on Snapchat Spotlight of all places. Yeah, I know. The story goes like this. Uh, you know that Italian brain rot meme, Tung 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 Sahur? Ugh, I don't like that. Anyway, so it's long story short for the video, the parents of the young Tung 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 Sahur is being spray painted silver to go to a culinary school, learns how to be a great chef. Tung 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 Sahur Jr. does very well. Everyone, all of his classmates got clapping. Master Chef's contest being submitted by the teacher. Uh, Tung 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 Sahur Jr.'s parents are so proud. Uh, cooking contest starts to begin. Tung 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 Sahur Jr. wins the contest, and good for him. He's very happy about that. Uh, the young Tralaleo Tralala opens champagne or wine or whatever, exposing that Tung 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 Sahur Jr. is an imposter. There's an imposter among us. Apparently, Tung 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 Sahur Jr. is found guilty for being an imposter, and even the parents of Tung 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 Sahur Jr. had been arrested for some reason. Like, why are you arresting the parents for being an imposter? Anyway, Tung 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 Sahur Jr. goes to a different school where he meets other creatures and students of his kind. Not all Tung 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 Sahur like wooden bats. However, other creatures that have wooden textures. Like there was another tra-la-la tra-la-la with wooden texture, and yeah, that's pretty much where that Snapchat spotlight ends. And I'm just, well, okay, what was that video? What? No, of course, I know this was on Snapchat spotlight, so I can't argue too much because, well, Snapchat is quite a place to be on for looking for content, so I can't argue too much on that. Yeah, yeah, that video, I found it baffling and also kind of funny, but still very strange how people would even watch such videos like that. It's not a problem. It's not end of the world or whatever. It's just, yeah, yeah, that's life, you know. You got to come across wacky chaos, bangaranga, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that is pretty much whatever was on my mind just before I started recording. And yeah, now, in regards to what me, Eric, and Risk have sent into the podcast group chats for us to look into and question whatever the heck was going on in our lives, there hasn't been anything new that's been sent since the last time I recorded a podcast episode. So, with that all being said, let's get right into the news. Mercedes-Benz faces potential exclusion from the US market under the Motor Vehicle Modernization Act, which bars automakers with over 15% foreign adversary government equity from selling or importing vehicles. State-owned BAIC holds 9.98% and billionaire Li Shufu holds 9.69% of Mercedes-Benz, a combined 19.67% stake that exceeds the bill's 15% threshold for foreign adversary control. The company operates two large U.S. assembly plants and employs more than 11,000 people. Its Tuscaloosa, Alabama facility has produced more than 4.5 million vehicles since 1997. Industry groups are scrutinizing the legislation. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation CEO John Bozella wrote last week that the bill makes substantial progress, but emphasized details matter. The Connected Vehicle Security Act and related restrictions on Chinese-linked software and hardware starting in 2027 signal a broader regulatory push to limit foreign adversary influence in the US auto sector. Honestly, I'm all for this initiative. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't bring imports into the United States or for any country to not bring foreign products into their own countries. That is something I would argue. Now, if there are products from another country which are just as good, if not better, of quality or in resilience and longevity, then okay, fair enough. Yet that's not to say we shouldn't prioritize our own industries, producing our own products to be used by our own citizens. So I can't argue with the US market trying to pass a bill to limit, for the most part, the selling of products or services from a foreign company. Yet, one thing I would say that even when you do limit foreign products to be imported into a country, and from the summary, and this is just me, why is the US automaker industry going after China of all places? Yes, I know the two countries are massive. They're trading juggernauts, and they're in a heated rivalry in terms of trading influence. Yet seems too obvious that this is all aimed at China or any Chinese company limiting their influence in the US. What if people in the US want to use Chinese goods or services? Now, of course, I know a lot of Americans will argue that China's not at the best quality, they're not reliable, and it's okay to have such opinions. Yet, if there are going to be people in the US that want Chinese products or services, then let them. Of course, limit the number of Chinese-related imports coming to the US, yet at least allow the option for those that do want to use such products or service from China, and same could be said with other countries. That does not take away, which I'm making this, which I cannot stress enough. Whatever products you're importing from whatever country around the world, even if it is at the standards that to most countries is good enough, whatever good enough is even defined as by said governments, that's not to say we shouldn't prioritize our own industries, producing our own products to be given to our own people. Again, that's just me. So, and of course, even if people do argue that this bill, once it becomes law, will make a difference in terms of what products comes into the United States, actions speak louder than words. You may have to talk. Do they have to do? And if they do what they do, then that's all you need to know. Italy bans Kanye West, Travis Scott concerts over security concerns. Oh boy. Yesterday, Reggio Emilia officials cancelled the back-to-back concerts featuring Kanye West and Travis Scott at RCF Arena, ending speculation surrounding the high-profile European festival booking. Officials cited public order and safety concerns as the setup of consecutive headline performances at the venue raised logistical alarms around managing crowds and infrastructure strain. The festival faced sustained criticism from anti-fascist groups, trade unions, and members of the Jewish community, many of whom called for Kanye West's appearance to be removed. Ticket holders are advised to follow official communications from Ticketmaster, Italy, for refund updates, as the decision halts the biggest selling point of the Gaia Festival. Early indications suggest that the Travis Scott performance may be postponed significantly, with some reports pointing to a potential rescheduling as far out as 2027. Now, I'm not surprised by criticism from anti-fascist groups, trade unions, and, more notably, the Jewish community. I'd be surprised if aforementioned people groups didn't call out Kanye West, given his takes, his opinions, and other controversies he's been involved with in the past. So, I can't argue with the criticisms. What I will argue is the motive of why Kanye West was going to be brought on at a Travis Scott concert to begin with. Now, people will argue that Kanye and Travis, they're the best of buddies, they're very close friends, and they'll do anything to support each other at their shows. And you know what? Fair enough. On the other hand, not sure how soon in advance this information specifically was made to fans or people in the surrounding area, somewhere in Italy, that Kanye was going to be at a Travis Scott concert or a concert in Italy. If this was made and announced soon as possible, then I don't see how anyone should argue that how people weren't supposed to know that Kanye was going to come. And even if that was made in advance, again, there's going to be criticisms that Kanye West shouldn't be performing anywhere whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying I'm backing Kanye West with whatever his opinions are. What I will say is, if people do want to change, they want to make a difference, and they want to fulfill in their desires to prevent someone from competing, performing, or do what people were set out to do when they were set to come to a country or a city in question. And if people want to boycott such events, then do it. Boycott the events. The size of the boycott, it factors in if action is ever going to be taken. Well, so there were some cases something had to be done, and everyone that boycotted were happy because that was being fulfilled. Yet, on the other hand, there have been moments where organizers said that we're not going to exclude this person or these people groups because there's guidelines and frameworks that says that if that's followed, then they're allowed to be in it, and they are following such rules and guidelines. So I don't see why they should be excluded because they're following such rules and guidelines. That's the other side of things. So ending off on this story. Now, not saying that we should give controversial people benefit of the doubt. What I will say is, other than making it very clear and putting the information out beforehand that someone is going to perform, I'd say no matter what identity you are, whatever your background is, no matter the controversy, I'd say allow people to compete in competitions and allow people to perform in concerts or shows which they're set out to be a part of. That does not excuse the opinions, doesn't excuse the actions of a particular country. We should still call them out as much as we can. We are now coming to a point where people from said countries that have been excluded from events before, they're slowly coming back into the limelight. People from countries whose military is enacting war and causing a hassle, not just diplomatically, but also in terms of the military strength they're enacting and pushing towards. We've now come to a point where people representing such countries are now slowly being unprohibited from competing or performing. And of course, we're now starting to see that people are not happy that people from that country are not being excluded this time round like they have been before, which people are arguing they should still be excluded. Yet eventually, no matter what rules in place or the restrictions for beforehand, or even if there's going to be any resolution that puts an end to all the violence that exists in this world, people from countries whose military is causing a fuss, however, are slowly being reintroduced and slowly being allowed to compete again or perform in shows and whatnot for the aforementioned future. And again, if people want to boycott events because that person or this country has been included, then do it. Do the boycott. Boycott. Get all your friends and family involved. Make your voices heard. Don't think that having a boycott is going to change everything. It is a long, tedious process, which eventually, with strong numbers, it will pay off. It will pay off. There's enough voices and a strong enough grassroots base calling out someone or something as it is. Raheem Sterling arrested on suspicion of drug driving after Lamborghini crash. On Thursday, Hampshire police arrested former England winger Raheem Sterling on suspicion of drug driving, dangerous driving, possession of a Class C drug, and failing to provide a specimen after his Lamborghini collided with barriers on the M3 southbound near Minley Interchange. Sterling's career has declined since leaving Manchester City nearly 4 years ago, marked by a contract termination at Chelsea in January and a subsequent move to Dutch club Feyenoord in February, where he made 8 appearances. A source told the Daily Mail Sterling has been in an extremely difficult place for 2 years, citing immeasurable psychological strain, and noting his move to the Netherlands failed to escape persistent negativity surrounding his career. Sterling was released on bail pending further inquiries, with police investigations continuing into the circumstances of Thursday's collision on the motorway. This incident highlights professional struggles Sterling faced recently, including a failed ban loan stint at Arsenal, where he managed just 5 Premier League starts under manager Enzo Maresca at Chelsea. Poor lad. He's been in quite a pickle career-wise since leaving Manchester City. And he's done very well for Man City as well. Well, of course, it comes to a point where you're not just declining in terms of physical attributes, you're also declining in terms of how often you start for the club you're playing at, and even declining in terms of potential destinations of what's the next club you're going to play at once your contract at the current club finishes, or if the club in question you're playing for says, we're not going to renew your contract, you're going to have to leave by the end of this summer or this winter, or whatever the club decides to conclude terms with the player. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that Sterling, whilst he's still playing professionally, not as much as he has used to be starting matches since he has ever left Man City. I do question now if what Sterling is going through right now since leaving City, could that be the reason why Pep Guardiola decided that Sterling's time at Man City is coming to an intentional end, and it's the time for Sterling to go to another club? I'm not saying it's true. Then again, I remember when Gabriel Jesus was at Man City and he left for Arsenal. And all the Arsenal fans are like, yes, we're getting a quality Man City player playing for Arsenal. Then again, not saying Gabriel Jesus has been bad since he played for Arsenal. Jesus has done a lot better when he was at Man City than he was at Arsenal or wherever club he's playing at now. In fact, I haven't heard from Gabriel Jesus since he left Man City, which again goes back to the question likewise with Raheem Sterling. What was the reason Pep Guardiola said that these players, despite doing so well for Man City, has said that you've done very well for the club. However, I think your time at this club is coming to an end. I believe you will do well at other clubs. That not Pep's exact words, however, that is what I think he was persuading. If there are clubs or no players at Man City, not just when their contracts are running out, however, their time and their journey at Man City does conclude. So yeah, that's just me about the departure of Man City players going to other clubs and so on and so forth. And now, in regards to the drug driving Lamborghini crash, yeah, that's goodness. Now, I'm not gonna say don't do drugs, kids, because no one should be doing drugs to begin with. But of course, they do crazy things to your mind. They really do. Now, I'm not gonna defeat. Now, I'm not gonna go hard on Sterling on this. Then again, I'm certainly not defending on drug possession and driving while on drugs. No, I'm not all for that. I advise against that. Now, given the career that Raheem Sterling had when he was at Man City and other clubs in the Premier League, somehow, yeah, I know the description had said that he's been left on bail, pending further inquiries. Question is, given how much professional soccer football players have would have been paid in their earlier years playing for the biggest clubs in the countries which they're playing in, would they have gotten off so easy if they hadn't been paid so highly? Not just the club they've been at, but also the club they're currently at. And another what if? Would these soccer football players even had possession of said drugs if they haven't been given the salaries which they had been paid, not just at the club they've been at, but also the club they're currently at now? So yeah, that's a lot of what ifs for me. It really boggles the mind. Would the player get off so easily if they haven't been paid so highly at the club they're at? Or would the player even be able to get possession of such drugs or being able to afford such drugs if the club was not being paid at the salary at the club they're currently at? It's quite a cycle. It really boggles the mind, or at least it does for me. So yeah, just a valuable lesson for anyone listening. Now, I'm not saying don't do this and don't do that. I'm not going to tell you that. What I will say is you will pay the price for your actions, and you will go through the consequences for what you've done. If you've done something wrong, that is. And if you take something that you shouldn't, nor as well as something that really messes with your mind. That I will say. Heads up for what you're getting yourself into. So yeah, uh, it's wild out there. Drag queen Patagonia slams Patagonia's lawsuit alleges $1 million cost. On Wednesday, drag queen and climate activist Patagonia announced she will fight a $1 trademark lawsuit filed by outdoor apparel giant Patagonia, escalating a dispute over her name and environmental work. Patagonia filed the California federal lawsuit in January to protect its brand, alleging that Patagonia's name and activities could confuse consumers about her relationship with the company. In an open letter post on Instagram, Patagonia argued the case threatens her 8-year career, warned if could grind me down so far that I can't continue to operate. Challenging Patagonia's mission to save the home planet, Patagonia invoked founder Yvonne Chouinard's words, "You are what you do, not what you say you are," suggesting the lawsuit contradicts company values. Urging CEO Ryan Gellert and the Purpose Trust to intervene, Patagonia stated, "I ask you to intervene and drop this lawsuit today," seeking resolution outside of court. Now, firstly, I will say this. Who on earth would be so stupid to confuse the name of a company with the name of a drag queen? Yes, I get the play on words. Patagonia. That's clever. I'll give her that. That's clever. But still, who on earth would be so stupid to confuse a name of a drag queen and confuse the name of a giant apparel. I get it. Play on words, very clever. Ha ha. Surely people can't be that stupid or gullible. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I mean, there could be people that be dumb enough or gullible to confuse one with the other and say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I don't know that person is part of the company." But no, the Patty is not part of Patagonia whatsoever. Now, I will not argue with you. I'm not going to argue with the statements. You are what you do, not what you say you are, because actions speak louder than words, and that is true. You may be all talk. People can be all talk. Yet, how does this person do in enacting what they say? I'm just saying. This applies to anything else, not just the story in question. If people enact on something which doesn't match up with the words they say, then I wouldn't blame people for questioning what is this person's intentions or execution or what they wanting to do. So it is worth noting that it is more about the actions of a person, not what the words they say they would do. So yeah. So in regards to the lawsuit, okay, honestly, I think this lawsuit is stupid. It's just a name. It's just a confusion of the names of a person and the company. And even if it may benefit the person more than the company, again, there are worse things in this world to worry about than just, no, someone's going to think that this person's part of our company. You can just say, you can state it in a fine print or some disclaimer on your website saying, do not get confused with this person. That's it. You could simply say that. I don't know why you need to make a lawsuit or have to sue the person because the stage name of the person sounds too similar to the brand in question. And even if it was intentional for Patagonia to have the name sound similar to the company, I don't see Patagonia, the company, trademarking Patagonia. I think that would be the smart thing to do for the brand Patagonia. To trademark anything similar sounding to the brand's name. If that was done, then that would be suitable grounds for a lawsuit. However, haven't heard if a trademark was even put in place by Patagonia, the brand, to even trademark the stage name of the drag queen herself. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think there's going to be a loss for the brand Patagonia, at least on the grounds of trademark, because I remember talking with Shadowminer a while ago about in terms of trademarks and confusing one brand with the other, and something Shadowminer told me is that you can have a name that sounds similar to another company, just has to be in a different industry sector. That's at least what I remember from what Jacob Shadowminer told me. Like a revival of Byte that me and Shadowminer have been working on along with Eric occasionally, that it is possible for another company called Byte to exist, yet the Byte name is affiliated with a completely different company in a completely different sector. That is possible. This story about Patagonia, the drag queen, and Patagonia, the brand, is no different. The only difference is, if there was any intention by Patagonia, the brand, to trademark the the name of the drag queen beforehand, then that's viable grounds for lawsuit. But otherwise, I think this is a win for the drag queen. This lawsuit is a certain win for the drag queen, for sure. That I will say. There is no arguing with that. The brands should really thought of this sooner if they didn't want to get themselves in such a pickle like that. I'll leave it with that. And that is the episode.